Hey, this is Aria Craig, your empowerment and leadership strategist for ambitious moms who are ready to elevate themselves in success and leadership in their personal and professional lives. And you know what time it is? It is 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, which means it is time for our Ask Aria segment. So, if you've been following me over the past few weeks, I've been pretty much talking about having difficult discussions with your kids, mainly with your teens. So I have talked about having a discussion around bullying, having a discussion around non-consensual sex, and today I'm going to talk about having a discussion around consensual sex. So my husband and I were talking about this the other day. I think that kids are very they it's very easy for them to talk to each other about it because they talk about it all the time without feeling like there's going to be any type of recourse, or there's going to be any consequences behind it. And kids nowadays, they know who's having sex with who broke up with who, all kinds of stuff. We, however, of course, are not privy to that information. Just like when we were younger, we didn't want to tell our parents because we knew we were going to get in trouble. We'd get a lecture. We just didn't want to hear that. So that's the same that holds true, except for this day and age, everything is on social media. So, I just read an article even a couple of days ago about how teenagers are migrating from Facebook to Snapchat. Like, they're using all kinds of other social media platforms to fill in their friends and their friends on what's going on in their lives, and doing little goofy, silly things. And some things actually are more serious. But having that discussion with your children is very hard, because I think as parents, we get scared with what we're going to find out. Like, we're scared of what they're going to respond, what their response is going to be. So if we're sitting down and we're talking to them and we're asking them, kind of getting some more information about the crowd that they hang out with, or what's going on with them and their friends, or who they're attracted to, if they already have they're already dating and have a girlfriend and boyfriend, trying to figure out how far they've gone. It's uncomfortable for them, but it's also, they don't realize how uncomfortable it is for us, because we're intimidated by how they're going to respond, and what will they actually say. Will they actually tell me that they've been sexually active? Are they embarrassed to say, I want to go, or I've gone to the store to buy condoms, or I have been sexually active with my boyfriend, or whatever the case may be. I think that it is really important to have the discussion very early. And I actually had someone to ask me, I talked about this on a segment on a radio show, but I had someone to ask me, she disagreed with the age that I talked to my son about sex. And once I told her why, it was kind of like the light bulb went off. Well, went on, I should say, not went off, but went on. So, and I think that she was really surprised at how young kids are having sex nowadays, because it's what they do is they talk to each other about it. They're going to get it from someone outside of your home if you're not having that discussion with them. And it's not just about talking to them about sex, but consequences behind it, and what their motivation is for having sex, especially if it's too early. Like, you really want to have those conversations with them to figure out why they're making those types of decisions. So I have my phone here. I have some notes here on my phone, and let me just go back to it. One of the things that I suggest you do is take them to, or have the conversation in an environment or a place where they feel comfortable and trusting you to admit and actually reveal information that you're seeking about their sexual life, about their private life. Because kids, especially when they're teens, they don't even like you going in their room and snooping around. They don't want you figuring out what they're doing on social media. They don't even want to be friends with you on their social media if you have an account on that platform. They don't even want to be your friend. And I have to say, I have to admit that I know people that say they don't even want to be Facebook friends with their daughters or sons because they're scared of what they're going to find. And it shouldn't be that way. I mean, it may be uncomfortable, but you don't want to be nervous because if you're scared of what you're going to find, that means you're scared to even have a conversation with them about it. But it's good to start early because you want to really give them a certain level of respect for themselves. So what I suggest you do is you take them to maybe their favorite pizza place, or order pizza if you think it's going to be an uncomfortable place around other people, but you don't have to be standing exactly around other people. Maybe get a booth or something, but get pizza or something, order it, and say, we're going to have takeout or whatever, but just make the environment comfortable for them to want to share the information and trust you with it. And don't start beating them up and attacking them. You kind of want to set the scene for them to be comfortable and you comfortable, and not stumbling over your words trying to ask the question about what's going on with their personal lives. You also want to ask them the question, like kind of lead into it. Ask them the question without accusing them. You can kind of tell certain things are, if they haven't already happened, that they are interested in it because of their behavior and how they are on the phone with certain people, like how they dress when they know they're going to see a certain person. That, and you know how it was with us when we were younger. When we talked about a certain person, like a lot, our parents can pretty much tell, like, that's who this person is who you're interested in because you talk about this guy all the time, or you're always talking about this girl. So do you like her? Are you attracted to her? Kind of get the same feeling with them. But if you notice that they're talking about, we're going to go see Black Panther, or we're going out to get some pizza, and you notice how they're dressed, like they're taking particular care into how they smell wearing cologne and their hair, and not really giving you too many details about who's going to be there. Or you notice that your teen is putting on a whole lot of makeup and all of a sudden she got to be like beat to the gods or something like that. That's when you kind of want to just like, okay, I need to have a talk with her because we need to figure out what's going on and where her mind or his mind lies. I'm sorry, I keep saying that's something that I was taught not to do when I had Toastmasters, when I was taking Toastmasters. But this is my segment. I'm going to say please forgive me. This is something that I haven't practiced. Even though I have my notes, I haven't practiced it as if I were speaking in front of an audience, which I normally do if I was speaking in front of an audience for a speaking engagement. But we're just going to keep moving because there's a lot of information that I want to get to. You kind of want to use, even when you're talking to kids at the very beginning, like early enough in their ages, you don't want to use cutesy words. Like you really want to use verbiage that's accurate. Like you want to say breasts or penis or vagina. You don't want to say cutesy words like hoo and just little, where I'm going with it. You really want to be to where you're making a point and making it serious enough for them to understand that I need to pay attention and this is a big deal. When you're talking to them, okay, before I get into this part, I want to tell you what happened that led me to have the discussion with my son at the age of 8. Yes, my son was 8. That was more than 10 years ago when I had the discussion with him initially, because I follow up with him probably about a couple of times out of the year to make sure we're on the same page, because as they get older, you're going to have to increase the dialogue and the verbiage and what you want them to know and their knowledge as they get older and understand more about sex. And again, trust me, if you think that your children at the age of 8, 9, and 10 don't know about sex, trust me, they do. And it's probably not going to be from the way that you want them to understand. It's going to be from their friends or classmates or what have you that's talking about, or they've seen it. They've seen their parents do it, or they've seen their dad do it with someone, or their mom do it with someone. They've seen it on TV, something. And you don't want them to have a misunderstanding. So my son was 8. I went to go and pick him up from childcare. And I remember the childcare provider, and she was good. The child care provider told me that she had gotten a phone call earlier that day, and her and I would just kind of have like short discussion while I'm, picking my son up. She said she got a phone call earlier that day from a young lady who used to be in her care that had a baby. This young lady was 10 years old, and her 11-year-old sister already had a child. That's crazy. I do know of people that I went to middle school with. I wouldn't say people, it was one person in particular that I went to middle school with. She was pregnant by the time we were in sixth grade. And there were several people by the time I went to freshman year, from freshman year to senior year in high school, that got pregnant. So, but as young as 10 and 11, they're sisters. So that should give you some type of indication that there is not a conversation in the home about sex, when to have, like what sex is for, what you experience that make you want to have sex, sexually transmitted diseases. Like none of those conversations are going on. And what are they seeing at this young age that's enticing them to want to experience this and learn more about it? So I'm sorry, I'm just getting back to my talking points. So one of the things that I talked to my son about was, I talked to him at that age about private parts. I talked to him about sex. I was very candid about the conversation in terms of the private part area, because we'd already talked about non-consensual sex. So I told him, if you go back to the other video I had, we need to have a code word. We had a code word in my family later on after I experienced sexual abuse. And when I had my child, it was very important. By the time he was, I think, about 2, we were having that conversation. So I could know if he felt uncomfortable, and so he can communicate to me if someone touched him in a manner that made him feel uncomfortable. So I'm sorry, I'm in Chicago, y'all. I'm sorry, and my nose. It's like snowing out here. We got all this snow out here in the background. My husband and my son have been shoveling out snow. But going back to the conversation, when I discussed sex with him and helping him to understand that this is something that you should not be doing at this age. This is something that adults do. People do when they're older, when they love each other. And for me, being a Christian, even though I was a single parent, I knew that, we were taught that this is something that you do when you get married. Most people are not doing that nowadays, but you definitely don't want your kid doing it at 8, 9, and 10 years old. As he got older and was exposed to it more, that's when I started adding other things. So I think he was about 12 years old, 12 or 13, somewhere between the 7th and the 8th grade, when I started talking about sexually transmitted diseases. So I put it into perspective of, if you had if you had a little girlfriend or someone you liked, and you had sex with her, and you already know that she had a boyfriend before you, say it was your friend Philip. So say she was already sexually active with Philip. That means you had sex with her and you had sex with Philip. Because anybody that she has sex with, you are exposed to them through her. And I learned that from the book No More Sheets by Juanita Bynum. Like, you are already tied to this person and whoever else that person has already been intimate with. So once I put into that perspective, it started to sink in, like it started to click. And not to mention that our young people don't really believe that they can get sexually transmitted diseases. Like, they're so busy, they're so concerned about getting pregnant and they go and get abortions because they don't want their friends to call them all kinds of names. They don't want the boyfriend, whoever it is, they're like, I got a promising scholarship somewhere and I can't have this right now, or whatever the case may be. But they don't take into consideration the sexually transmitted disease part of it, when they feel that probably that's something that adults get, or this particular disease is something that, somebody in this generation will have. I'll never have it because I'm too young, not realizing that they could possibly have it and spread it around. And then they're too embarrassed when they realize that something's not right in that area. They're too embarrassed to talk to their parents about what it is and how they contracted it. So having that conversation with children, not just about pregnancy, but sexually transmitted diseases, is very important. I'm going to tell you what I did. I showed my son pictures of what sexually transmitted diseases look like in on your private areas, where the female area and the male area, like the vaginal area and the penile area, the penis. So he was like grossed out. Sorry, my got finished, and I don't know if that was something that helped him deter, because as far as I know, if he's told me, we've hit, like I told you, I check in with him every now and then. He hasn't had a girlfriend. He's very much committed with school right now, which is what I was really trying to really send that message to him, to stay focused on school right now, and then the girlfriend will come later. But he was just like, I think that from that point forward, in his mind, he felt, and then what I've been kind of experiencing with his dad as a single mom. I was a single mom for 12 years. Now I'm married. I think that kind of made him say, you know what, I think I'm just going to wait. On top of the fact of what he's been studying from the teens ministry at our church. So it's very important to have that conversation with them, and have it at an age where you know that they can get what you're saying. In addition to that, while you're having that conversation, talking about self-respect is so much more important than I wouldn't say so much more important. It's a key driver in the conversation. Like, you can't really talk about them having sex and who they're having sex with, and getting pregnant, having children early, sexually transmitted diseases, and then not really including the self-respect part of it, to help them to have a certain mindset to not have sex by a certain age, or to not have sex early. So when we're talking about having self-respect, we're talking about you loving yourself enough to where you're not going to share this most special, intimate part of yourself with anybody who is not deserving of it. So we're talking about you loving yourself enough to where, you're going to, I'm trying to figure out how to say the words. You're loving yourself, even males. It's not just the females, but the males. Loving themselves enough to where they're not going to give it to somebody who's been hoeing themselves around. Because we all, we've been in school. We know that there were people in school who were considered easy and fast. And they probably, until this day, have that same stigma, because that's how you remember them. Even though they may have even changed their character since then, I don't know, but that's how you remember them. You want them to have a level of respect for themselves, where other things are so much important and drivers for their lives personally and professionally. You don't want them to get hung up on certain things and being led and influenced by other people because they're doing it. Really training them and guiding them to have a mind of their own, and letting them know how the decisions that they make have consequences behind them in their lives. Not Philip's life, not Sally's life, not whoever's life, but their life. I heard a statement made by a DJ out here. Well, he's not a DJ, he's a radio host out here in Chicago. And I never forget, he made a comment that said, or a statement that said, a man is going to take what is freely given to him. So if a woman can process that, a young lady can process that, even a teenager can process that what I have is so special to me that I don't feel like I can freely give it to anyone. Like, it's not for free. It comes with the price of love, the price of commitment. Me just sharing myself with anybody, this is too special. And it's the core of my essence, that I know that if I give this to you, I'm never going to get it back. I'm never going to get it back. Like, you can go, we could break up and you go and do this, that, and the other with somebody else. It's gone. I've already given it to you. I will never be able to get that sacredness and that respect, that level of the core of my essence to myself, because now you've taken it and it's gone. And I gave it to you. It's not like you've taken it. Let me say this. Let me rephrase it. It's not like you've taken it. I've given it to you and you weren't even worthy of it. So even for males, because I've seen women, I've had, been around a couple of women, and I don't even interact with them now, because we're just night and day. We're just not on the same accord. But I have known women who would dress a certain way, have a certain lifestyle, and they had daughters, and their daughters saw this and actually started to mimic those same behaviors. And then they wonder why they were taking them to go get abortions, or they were dropping out of school, and or their daughters were dressing inappropriate, going to school and ditching class, and it's just, and I just, it's just so sad to me. And that's because they weren't taught it themselves, so they can't teach and pour into somebody what they don't have. And even with the boys, you really want, speaking of those type of girls, you want to ask them, is that really what you want? Like, is that really what the type of young lady, and it's not even a lady, this is a girl, a type of girl that you want to be intimate with? Like, you want that? And have some respect for the fact that I'm your mother, and I want you to be with somebody that's like me. Have some type of a certain type of frame of mind to where I know that is, I don't want to use the term beneath, but we're not on the same level. Like that's a person who is on a different type of mindset. I've got something going on here. A different type of mindset, and that's not anything that I want to be a part of, because I love myself enough to not want to embark on having anything, giving anything to somebody else that's special to me, and then it's not special to them because they don't even respect themselves. So I was trying to say this in a certain kind of way, and I hope you all get my drift and where I'm going. So that's all I have for this particular segment in, talking to your children about consensual sex. Please visit my website, www.ariacraig.com. I will be speaking at MommyCon the very first weekend. That Sunday I'll be speaking, but I'll be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday vending my best-selling books, The Single Mother Diaries. But also, if you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter at Aria_Craig, or Instagram, which is where I do a lot of my posting, Aria.Craig, or send me a message over here on this Facebook group at this Facebook Facebook page, Aria Craig Strategist for Moms. Until next time, I'll see you next Thursday, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye.